Tenshin Nasukawa is a multi-weight kickboxing champion with 42 wins and 0 losses. 32 of those wins coming by knockout. When watching Tenshin fight, the audience never knows that they're going to see him finish an opponent with a well-delivered basic or an advanced strike, showcasing a spectacular feat of agility. And like the previous fighters showcased in my Drills to KO series, it's very clear that Tenshin's dominance is in most part due to years and years of hard work. We'll start off with the fan favorite, the cartwheel kick. While most fighters use this as a taunt or to rile up the crowd, Tenshin actually practices it in his mitt work with power. By giving flashy moves the same kind of consideration and practice that he does with staple basics, Tenshin can seamlessly flow between the two. For instance, you'll notice here that he actually blends a slip into a cartwheel kick, countering his opponent's punch. At first glance, this looks like Tenshin is simply practicing a roundhouse kick. But notice how he connects with the ball of his foot rather than the instep. It's very easy to accidentally injure your foot throwing this way, but the reward is that Tenshin can circumvent his opponent's guarding arm to target their liver. Liver shots take a few seconds to register, but cause intense, paralyzing pain to the opponent. Here Tenshin practices a staple of the sport, catching a kick to set up a punch. This technique is risky, as catching the kick requires leaving one side of your guard wide open. But Tenshin has such great head movement, he can actually slip his opponent's counterattack as he throws. Here Tenshin showcases another counter to a kick, throwing a cross. This move requires incredibly precise timing, as Tenshin must connect with the opponent after their leg has lifted off the ground, but before they complete their kick. But when it does land, the opponent has no way to absorb the impact. Now it's time to get to what makes Tenshin's style so unique. It's no secret that Tenshin likes to chain together rear side attacks, so in this drill, Tenshin practices throwing with his power side exclusively. This is a particularly powerful concept when fighting in an open stance, where both fighters have opposite feet forward, as this scenario leaves both fighters more vulnerable to rear side attacks. But Tenshin actually creates a lot of cool tactics off of this one principle. The first and easiest way to chain two rear side attacks together that Tenshin commonly uses is to set up a head kick off of a cross. This simple combination can work incredibly well, as the opponent's defensive reaction to the cross often clears a path for the roundhouse. Tenshin will also save a tempi by throwing a punch off the retraction of his kick. Add a jump to this concept, and you have a pretty epic Superman punch combination. And now we come to my favorite concept that runs throughout Tenshin's style. A principle I like to think of as the double tap. The double tap concept involves throwing a rear side attack, then taking the extra time to pull all the way back, completely reloading the next rear side attack. Normally after throwing a strike off of one side, you would either throw from the opposite side with the usual left-right rhythm, or vice versa. But Tenshin sacrifices a lot of extra time to reload entirely so that every single rear side attack has as much power as humanly possible. And there are a lot of cool tactics that come out of this. For instance, the reload can actually act as a kind of feint in itself, throwing off the opponent's defensive rhythm by throwing the opposite way that they were anticipating, because they're expecting an attack that doesn't come. But maybe the biggest benefit is that Tenshin can use the extra time he reloads to cover more distance, shuffling forward as he resets. This way he can focus on getting the correct angle and distance, taking his time to set up the perfect shot with power rather than carelessly spamming weaker strikes. The most potent use of this concept is when Tenshin practices alternating crosses with knees. And it's here that Tenshin can really put the time in between shots to good use. In this drill, Tenshin practices turning his cross into a collar tie as he reloads. This way, he can use his spent punch to pull an opponent into his knees. This concept can even apply to flying knees. Note that Tenshin still takes the time to mimic pulling his opponent's head down while in mid-air as he drills. Tenshin can make the double tap concept even more complex by reloading into a spin attack. Here he practices throwing a roundhouse kick, then immediately reversing direction to change into a spinning back kick. This makes a surprising amount of sense, as a rear leg roundhouse kick usually invites the opponent to attack, and the spin back kick is best used as a counter. Tenshin is looking to retire from kickboxing after one last fight, hopefully a rematch against Rodtang. He then plans to transition to boxing, but the style he's used throughout his kickboxing career can serve as a valuable blueprint for any southpaws who come after. You can check out my books on footwork, defense, and power linked below. For the Modern Martial Artist, this has been David Christian, wishing you happy training.